A lot of the younger guys make fun of us, but
Are the younger guys like fourth-year seniors, like normal?
no, I think we're just a lot of the younger guys make fun of us for being old because I'm in my 5th year. Like my locker mate is 17 years old, Austin Mack. Like what? What are you talking about? I'm 6 years older than my locker mate. It's crazy, but yeah, I mean the experience that we all have, it helps us a lot going to games like this, knowing that no matter what goes on in the game, that you got to make sure to keep even keel and stay level-headed because there's always ups and downs to a football game. I mean, Michigan's going to make plays. We just got to make sure we make more. So.
Last thing for me, y'all have all been together for a very long time. There's a couple transfers, a couple younger players, but this roster stayed together. Mm-hmm. What's allowed that to happen in this era when there's so much movement?
I mean, just the love for each other, especially the 5th and 6th year guys. The amount of head coaches that we've been through is pretty tough. I mean, losing guys to the transfer portal. I mean, that's what makes us all close is that we were able to stick through all the adversity. So yeah, I mean, that's what helps us win games on Saturday, and was hopefully going to help us win games and win that game on Monday.
Thank you.
What was that transition like when Coach DeBoer came in? Like, what were those conversations like to kind of keep you around going into the portal, like a lot of folks might have?
Yeah, that decision after that 2021 year, during that month while we at home, I had a lot of conversations with my parents. There was a lot of talks about maybe getting out of here and going somewhere else, playing somewhere else. But for some reason, I had a gut feeling that just stick it out, maybe for 3 months. If you don't like it during 2022 spring ball, get out. But when they came in, they chose the right guy for the job, man. And I think that's just, for me, I'm very religious, and I think that's just God. God was telling me that, you're right where you need to be. So, yeah, I mean, having them is awesome, and they've just done a really good job of keeping that, or bringing back that culture that Coach Pete had when I first got there. That's exactly why I stayed. So.
And how similar is Coach Pete to Coach DeBoer in terms of just the way things are run day to day?
I mean, things that are run day to day is kind of the same no matter what, but I would just say that the culture that was brought back in the locker room was special. I mean, he reminds me so much of Coach Pete just because of how family oriented he is, how much he treats us like no matter where you play, no matter where you at on the depth chart, like no one gets treated any different than the other. So shout out to Coach DeBoer, man. He's the GOAT.
What moment early on did you realize that, I made the right decision? This guy is for real. He's going to take us to a good place.
I think I would say during the winter of 2022, we kind of were going through some ups and downs as a team, just trying to trust in the new coaching staff. That's how it's always going to be. But I think fall camp 2022 is when they really kind of cemented that what they wanted to in place in this team. And the good thing about it was that we all had come from a coach that had already had the same morals that he did. So it was kind of easy to buy into what he was preaching because we knew that he wasn't just all talk. He was going to do exactly what he was talking about. So.
Looking at the matchup, a lot's being made of what Michigan's defensive front did last week with all the sacks. Is it fair to say this is a different kind of challenge than you guys have faced this year?
For sure. I said this last week, but it kind of changes week to week. This will probably be the best front seven that we go against all year. The one word that I describe this team as is very disruptive in the backfield. Like you said, I mean, 7 sacks, however many it was, against a really good Alabama team is something to talk about. We just got to make sure that we're prepared and we're ready to execute that game plan that Coach Huff and Coach DeBoer and Coach Grubb have for us. So.
What is it that they do that's extra or different than other teams?
They just line up in some really creative. They just line up in really creative ways, and it's really hard to pick out who's coming, who's dropping, coverage. And, they just have some really crazy ways of lining up that we don't really see too much. But our coaches are prepared, and they've prepared us, so we're ready to go.
How can a scout team get you guys ready for a look like that?
I think we have the best scout team in the country. I mean, those guys do a really great job of making sure that we're prepared. Especially the guys that I go against. I've been going against them for 2 years. They know my tendencies, I know theirs, but they do a really good job of making sure that I'm prepared for Saturday. And, Yeah, they're really important, especially in games like this where we need really good looks, and they've done a really great job of doing that.
Lastly for me, with Michael, do you recall early on, what was the first moment where he really struck you like, wow, this guy is like, he's the guy?
I wouldn't say that the moment that I had kind of realizing that was on the field. It was kind of off. I told the story earlier, was that during our last game last year, during our Washington State, our rivalry game, we were away on a Friday night during our chapel. He had stepped up and kind of talked about his testimony and his story, and that was the first time I ever heard of it. And you kind of just, like I said, I don't really look at him any different, just because he's been through that. But just having that respect for him and kind of listening to the words that he says a little bit, deeper, and kind of knowing where he had been, knowing what he had been through, and kind of respect that guy. I mean, he's crazy. I mean, he shows that on the field, but I think the biggest thing for us, why we follow him so much, is that because we know him off now. It took him a while to kind of get comfortable, but I mean, now he's kind of one of the guys for sure.
That was the first time he had told you guys that?
Yeah, I had never heard that story before. 11 months into the year, I mean, kind of just looking at it like, hey, what he said, he had never made it halfway through a season in his first 4 years, and I was like, no, man. I told my parents that story, and they started crying, and I was like, it's kind of crazy because we kind of know him now, but when he tells that story to other people, it's like, yeah, I mean, the guy's crazy. The guy's been through so much. I don't see, you see why. I mean, he does such a great job. So,
thank you so much.
Troy,